Hey everyone, we got a whole bunch of industrial fires popping up in Boston, up in Toronto. We have a dam breaking in Norway. We have thousands of cows dying in Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. It's looking like last year, again, just spread out. We also have cattle freezing to death down in Brazil, in the hottest year ever. We have a whole bunch of things we need to cover, a whole bunch of reports coming from you guys from around the world, what you're seeing on your store shelves, what you're seeing food shortage-wise. So let's jump into it. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. If you have retirement funds that you want to take care of and get them into something solid like precious metals, gold, silver, or platinum in your retirement accounts, you might want to talk to Jonathan and his team. There'll be a link at the end of the video. Welcome to the Poplar Report, everyone. I'm Steve Poplar, and we talk about the reports that you guys are sending in, as well as things that are happening in the news that directly impact you. This isn't just stuff that's happening somewhere out there or whatever. This is stuff that is impacting your supply chain, what you're seeing on your store shelves. So let's jump into it. 100 firefighters on the scene of a major industrial fire in Toronto. Apparently, it is a German chemical distribution company. Now, we hear chemicals and we think certain things, but these chemicals are industrial lubricants. So the machines that make a whole bunch of stuff and the generators and everything like that, they need to be lubed up, or else the wear and tear on them is going to be really, really bad. And we've been talking about how there is a major industrial lubrication shortage out there. There's just a shortage of grease. We've had several big fires at plants, and this is another big fire at a lubrication storage facility. This is not a production facility, but it is a storage facility. We've seen fires at medical, like pharmaceutical distribution centers, and this is a major fire. Several trailers caught fire, and then the building caught fire from that. They're talking about it being 48 hours to defeat this fire. So they're hoping to get the fire under control sometime today. It started yesterday around 1 a.m. These fires keep getting started around 1 a.m. Why is that? I'm not going to point the finger at anything specifically, but I'm going to say that we keep having so many of these suspicious forest fires, wildfires. They keep coming back as arsons. These fires over in Greece, right? A number of the big ones over there turned out to be arson, and we keep seeing a lot of these fires out west turning out to be arson as well. Now, no word yet on anything about in the Hawaii area, but there are rumors swirling out there already of potential nefarious actions, either by foreign government or by locals there. And if any of that is true, it's going to be very, very difficult to see these fires in any other light other than actual sabotage. So, like I said, another major industrial fire in Boston just last night. Big fire, and we have some of the pictures out of there are just crazy. They look like they're getting that under control, though. No word yet on what was in that building, that industrial facility. Also, over in Norway, they're getting pounded with rain. Major rain event. All the main roads between Oslo and Trondheim closed. And Trondheim, it being the third largest city in Norway, we're not talking about some Poduntville country. We're talking about Norway here, okay? Major deal there. One of their dams actually broke, and the 1,000 people downstream were able to be evacuated, but catastrophic damage to the town and everything like that. It wasn't not like a Hoover Dam type dam. It was like a lower dam kind of thing. But they were trying to release the water and ended up actually breaching into the main power generation facility there. And actually the water started coming right through the power plant. Not through the chutes through the power plant, but like through the generator housing part of the power plant. And it looks like it's going to be just devastated from that. Also, we have reports of thousands of cows dying across Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. The heat has been devastating for the cows and cattle in general. Iowa officials saying, "I've never seen anything like it." They received almost 400 requests to dispose of cows just in a single day. The 31st of July, they received 300, I believe, 90 requests for cows to be disposed of. And that's just in Iowa. We also already have the smallest herd of beef cattle in decades. And so we're going into this and we're having a massive loss of life amongst the cattle herds out there. Farmers are doing everything they can to cool their cattle down. They got industrial coolers. They're spraying with water. They're putting them into shade. They're doing all sorts of stuff, doing what they can. But the heat has not been good on the cattle. On the flip side of things, for everyone out there going to be like, oh, it's the hottest year in memory, right? Well, 3,000 head of cattle froze to death in Brazil. So, and it's just basic science, right? Basic weather. In the summertime, it gets hot, but in the wintertime, it gets cold. And when it may be hot one place, it might be cold another place. And that's kind of where we are with that. We're having some different temperatures in different places. Antarctica is actually colder than it has been in many years. So I know people like to fudge numbers and they like to, panic everybody about everything, because the water is going to rise and all this kind of stuff like that. And my opinion on that is let the water rise, because it's dropped for the past several thousand years. It's gone down significantly. One of these days I'm going to get out my pictures and talk to you about how I went to go visit the port city in Turkey. That was there in Bible times. And I was like, this is a port city. Cool. Where's the water? The water is a kilometer away because the water had dropped that much in the past 2,000 years. Yeah, they never talk about that, right? They never talk about how the water used to be higher up than it is today. Anyway, this is from Quigley. Not a food update, but a small insight perhaps into the signs of the times we are living in. I live in a part of Ireland that is not on any commercial airline's flight path. For years, I have never heard anything except seagulls and the infrequent whirl of basically a helicopter on summer weekends. About 6 months ago, very late in the evenings, I started hearing the unmistakable sounds of jet fighters flying overhead as the Royal Air Force, the British Air Force, right, rushed out to the Atlantic coast of Ireland to escort Russian military bombers who were testing RAF responsiveness off the Irish coast. These late-night Russian incursions into Irish airspace have continued on roughly a weekly basis ever since. This week, the Russians also began testing RAF responsiveness during daylight hours. The sound of RAF jet fighters racing overhead was a little eerie today. For the record, Britain and Ireland have a long-standing agreement that the RAF can treat Irish airspace as their own airspace for the purpose of defense, because Ireland doesn't have any fighter aircraft. So RAF has some refueling facilities there at Irish airports too. So Russians out there probing the defenses of NATO members. And this is a game that goes back to the Cold War. The Russians are like, let's make a really efficient aircraft bomber, and then let's just fly it around and make them scramble all these really expensive fighter jets. And so the cost of operating these heavy Russian bombers, I mean, they're like propeller, I mean, they're just like civilian jetliner kind of stuff. It's super cheap for them to fly these things, and so they just fly them over and they bring them near a coast or something like that and make us scramble our F-22s and scramble all our fancy stuff, and then they look out the windows and just smile at themselves and say it cost us how much to get here and it cost them how much to get here. And that's really what they've been doing. And they also are making people get comfortable with Russian bombers approaching their airspaces. Now with the hypersonic weapons that they have, These hypersonic weapons could penetrate through the air defense identification zones very, very quickly and get to nuclear weapons sites very quickly over top of them. And it really reduces the time between when they launch and when their missiles will be directly over our nuke sites. And it's scary. It's scary. So the world keeps going crazy out there. Sedana says, Middle Tennessee, milk was nearly wiped out with a couple of gallons of each type. Eggs were low. Bread was wiped out except for a few expensive brands. Hamburger buns and hot dog buns were also wiped out. Coffee was very low. Pepsi and Coke products were low. Instant potatoes were also wiped out at local Walmart. That again is Middle Tennessee. This is from a viewer. I withheld their name. I volunteer in Montrose, Colorado, for a food bank. We are running low on government-subsidized rice, tuna, and canned chicken. So the federal government gives issues food, essentially subsidized food, to these food banks, and they're running low on the rice, tuna, and canned chicken. What is really worrying is that the corn that we normally sell, this is switching gears to their farm, the corn that they normally sell by July 4th through September has not developed yet. Sure, it was late to go in due to heavier rains than normal, but not to the extent that none is available for donation and resale. It is how the food bank generates revenues to stay open. So they sell farmers corn and stuff like that out there, but they're not getting any of that to sell to raise funds for it. This is from another viewer. Wanted to reach out to you on current things I have been noticing where I am in North Dakota. Our main incomes are oil and farms, mainly wheat and soybean. Farmers use Roundup to make the crops ready for harvest. This is why cancer is becoming on such a rampage in the part of country that we are in. I asked my retired farmer friend why the trees were all dead except for the tops, and he told me it was from the spraying that they do of Roundup. Most of the waters up here are becoming unfishable because of toxic runoff of the stuff that they put on our crops. It's becoming scary out there for our children's future. Friends, that explains our society so very well, that we're strip mining everything we can today, and we're not even caring about tomorrow. Businesses are doing that, and our government is doing that. It just seems like everywhere we go, we just see just a total disregard for the future of our country, for future generations to come. All the stuff that they're ramming through in this insane morality, where's it go from here? What will be insane tomorrow and next year and 5 years from now that we think is crazy now that will be normal then? That's a question that I don't want to hear the answer to. This is from Jay. There is a salvage store in mid-sized town in Texas that I frequented for over a decade now. The merchandise occupies 3 rooms. Roughly, it's furniture, general merchandise, personal care, and food related. Although the inventory changes frequently, I could always count on finding number 10 cans, fruits and vegetables, discontinued chips and cereals, commercial packages of coffee and tea and spices, canned water, juice boxes, boxes of Aunt Jemina mixes, and other restaurant-sized food packages. There were at least 2 to 2.5 aisles full of food plus random pallets sitting around, but not recently. Last month, the food selection was spotty. Grabbed some bags of coffee. Then this week, the only food items were some bowl-sized bags of Captain Crunch, real tiny bags of Captain Crunch, a sad half shelf of hot sauce, and that's it. No other food. And we're seeing that, aren't we? We're seeing food banks are disappearing, are losing food. We're seeing these discount stores just aren't getting any discount stuff because the grocery stores are putting everything on the shelf. They're not donating nearly as much, and they're not selling any of it to wholesalers. This is from Captain Krusty Radio. That's a great name. Steve, thank you for the timely updates. I take a few of you guys and gals info that you all put up daily on YouTube and cross-reference the topics you are covering. This has kept me way ahead of the threats or coming shortages and so on. The amount of savings achieved by purchasing items before they go up is really amazing. Food, tools, and other various supplies are beating the stock market performance on their rate of return day after day. That just kind of goes out to show, folks, that what we're talking about are very real, tangible benefits. Yeah, I could be talking about stocks and invest in this and short that and all this kind of stuff like that, but really, getting out there and investing in your future with food and the things that you need to purchase anyway and getting them now really can have big returns. So some of you may feel like, I don't want to waste my money because I could be making money with this money. Friends, by you stocking up on stuff, you are protecting your wealth. You are really doing that. Susan says, no sugar at Costco in Eastern Washington. When I asked, the worker said they hadn't had any for over a week. Walmart, very low on sugar, flour, and oils. Again, I'm going to look back into sugar a little more. You guys keep saying there's shortages of sugar out there, but like I said, we shouldn't be having shortages of sugar, but you guys keep saying it's happening. So take that right now, take that however you will. You know, what does it matter what we should be having if we're experiencing certain things, right? Texas teacher says, I received my weekly digital flyer for our local HEB in South Central Texas. Multiple items listed on the flyer were marked out of stock. On the flyer, they were marked out of stock. So it's on sale, but they don't have any. I'm not understanding the logic of advertising something they don't have. But I will surely ask for rain checks for the items when I'm at the register. But it's kind of crazy. This is a report from South Africa. We haven't heard a report from them for just a little bit. So this is coming from Parrot Africa. They say, my friend has been battling to get car parts for his bakkie. It's basically a pickup truck. It's South Africa for pickup truck. I had to Google it myself. So, but struggling to get parts for their pickup truck, basically. It's been 4 months already and no parts. Yet he is a plumber, so he is now having to take a taxi everywhere to go work on people's pipes and everything. Meanwhile, prices of food in South Africa continue to skyrocket. And in Albany, brown bread has reached 1980 rand a loaf for sliced brown bread, which is about US $1 for a small loaf of bread. And generic brands on sale are also getting wiped out at Checkers Waterfall, which is a store. And especially chicken breasts, fillets, if they are cheaper per kilogram. Now, for most of us in first world countries, United States, UK, EU, Australia, you're going to hear these prices and you're going to be like, that's not bad, right? That's really good. But you got to remember, South Africa is like in Africa. Labor is cheap there. They have real cheap access to a lot of stuff. So generally speaking, in South Africa, the prices are a lot lower than what we see in a lot of other places in the U.S. and other places. So up to $1 for bread is actually a pretty big increase there. Rubber Ducky checking in. Haven't heard for about a week from them. A week later in Wasilla, Alaska, and still no Great Value brand 20-pound bags of white rice. They said they were wiped out last week, and still none. There are some other brands, but it is sparse. Also, no big boxes of ramen now. So that before they weren't out of ramen, but now they're out of ramen. Remember, like I said, when people start panicking, what do they first go to? They go to the ramen. They start grabbing some cases of ramen. Plenty of bowls, but no cases of packets currently. Only a few, 5 or so, and they're shrimp flavor. That is shocking. Plenty last week. We'll have to see if this lasts or if it's just a one-off thing. Friends, if you're in a good area and you get the money and if you feel like you're in a pretty good place, you might want to grab a couple packs of ramen. As long as you're not like deeply offended by the presence of ramen noodles in your house. If you take ramen noodles and throw a couple packs up on top of a dresser or something like that, it keeps relatively well. It's not great, but you know, just having a little more food variety, and once again, having something you can give out to other people who may be in need is a big thing. And ramen noodles are great for that because you can just give like 1 or 2 packs to people. This is from YT Mike. Central Pennsylvania. Visited Wally World today, or Walmart, of course. Rice very low compared to December. 20-pound Royal Basmati looked cleaned out. I checked online. You can still get the 20-pound Royal Basmati for $21, somewhat reasonably. Folgers coffee down to 3 foot of shelf space. They cut the shelf space for coffee. Still no large potato flakes available. Currently running $14 for the potato flakes on Amazon, almost twice the price that it was 2 years ago. This is from user 3175. I went to our Aldi in North Augusta, South Carolina today. Bread was low. They had no spaghetti, no penne, no elbow pasta. There were only a few boxes of rotini pasta on the shelf. They had about 24 2-pound boxes of angel hair pasta. Also, only about 15 bags of flour were on the pallet. So issues there apparently in South Carolina on pasta and flour. Please do keep your reports coming in. Use the word update anywhere in a comment on any one of these videos, and we can get you in there. Just let us know where you are and what you are seeing firsthand. We want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to check out Jonathan and his team over at Genesis Gold Group, you can go straight to this link. You'll go to the poplargold.com. That will take you to a landing page where you can request more information from Jonathan and his team. Also, if you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up there. And thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.